Labour have made a catastrophic admission that could ruin a big part of British culture. In today's video, we will discuss this, all whilst going over all of the latest news from up and down the country. But first, hit the like and subscribe to the channel and join our fast-growing community. Just a quick one to say we have new Make Britain Great, again t-shirts available on our store. Go grab them now. They are available at britishstand.com or check the link in the description. Labour MPs have issued a stark warning that the traditional British pint, a cornerstone of pub culture and national identity, could be under threat thanks to new legislation currently being debated in Parliament. The Product Regulation Bill, designed to review alcohol measures, has sparked alarm among lawmakers who worry it could grant future governments the power to reduce drink sizes under the guise of regulation. At the heart of the controversy is the fear that the bill's broad provisions could open the door to replacing the beloved pint with smaller measures. This has prompted an outcry among MPs and peers who are calling for protective amendments to be added to the legislation to ensure that the pint remains untouchable. One of the most vocal critics, former Minister Lord Sharp, has issued a stark warning about the potential misuse of the bill's powers. Addressing his fellow peers in the House of Lords, he highlighted the risk of the Secretary of State's position being held by what he described as a metric maniac, someone who might use the legislation to undermine the traditional pint. His concerns focus on the possibility of the pint being replaced by the Australian schooner, a smaller vessel that he lambasted as an abomination of a vessel, marginally too large for a sensible sherry, but far too small for a sensible beer. Lord Sharp painted a vivid picture of a future where some interfering busybody might decide to dictate drink sizes under the pretense of promoting public health. He warned, "It is not difficult to imagine a scenario where a nanny-state approach imposes changes that erode our traditions, all while claiming it's for our own good. This would not only be an attack on personal freedom, but also an insult to the cultural significance of the pint." The government has tried to reassure critics, with a spokesperson stating, "Pints of draft beer and cider remain part of our national identity. We have no plans to change this." However, many remain sceptical. Critics of the bill argue that its wording leaves too much room for interpretation and potential exploitation, raising concerns about what might happen under a future administration less committed to preserving tradition. As a proud supporter of British traditions, I find this debate deeply troubling. The pint is more than just a measure of beer. It's a symbol of community, heritage, and shared experiences. It represents the heart of British pub culture, a tradition that has brought people together for centuries. Reducing its prominence in favour of smaller, less meaningful measures would be a betrayal of our history and an unnecessary concession to a growing culture of micromanagement. The notion that a cherished tradition could be at risk due to legislative loopholes or overzealous health policies feels like a step too far. While public health is undeniably important, it is equally crucial to strike a balance that respects personal choice and cultural heritage. The Product Regulation Bill, in its current form, seems to miss that balance entirely. This isn't just about the size of a drink, it's about the creeping erosion of liberties and the tendency to legislate everyday life in a way that alienates ordinary people. Such measures risk fostering resentment, not change. Parliament should act decisively to protect the pint, ensuring that it remains a fixture of British life for generations to come. The debate surrounding this legislation is about more than beer. It's about what kind of nation we want to be, one that respects its traditions and trusts its citizens, or one that insists on controlling even the smallest aspects of daily life. For the sake of our culture, our pubs, and our pints, Parliament must tread carefully and ensure that no legislation undermines what is both a practical measure and a national treasure. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments. In other news, Labour's ambitious target to build 1.5 million new homes in 5 years has come under fierce criticism from Shadow Housing Secretary Kevin Hollinrake, who warns that the plans will devastate rural communities and greenbelt land. The housing target, announced by Starmer as one of his 6 key milestones, has sparked concerns about the disproportionate impact on countryside areas. Hollinrake, speaking to the media, said the proposals would drive coach and horses, a bulldozer if you like, through local concerns about development locations. 1.5 million homes, but lots of those homes are going to be built in Greenbelt, in rural areas. Targets in London will be reduced. Targets in most of rural areas, big rural areas across the country, will be doubled. So it's really where they're going to be built is the concern. And the thing is, people's concerns are going to be completely swept aside by Angela Rayner in this headlong rush to build more homes when we've already got lots of planning consents around the country. Speaking to Stephen Dixon and Ellie Costello during breakfast, he added, "What you've seen Angela Rayner doing is cutting targets in London by about 20% and doubling targets in rural areas. What we're seeing is typical socialism here, in terms of gerrymandering the house building out of urban areas and building in Greenbelt and rural areas. That can't be right. You see in some parts of the country, Westmoreland and Furness, for example, their numbers are a 5-fold increase. Cumberland, a 5-fold increase. North Yorkshire, a 3-fold increase, with a 20% cut in London. How can that be right when we know the demand for housing is in those urban areas? So yes, build and build more houses, but build them in the right places and make sure you have democratic consent. What we heard in Parliament this week, as a result of an urgent question by ourselves, was that the government is going to completely sweep aside local democratic consent. They're going to say councillors will not be able to review a new big housing development in their area. That's the reality. They're going to build these homes without democratic approval. We are very concerned about that. Yes, supportive of more housing, but make sure you have democratic consent for that housing. The controversial plans include new mandatory housing targets and potential development of green belt land, marking a significant shift in planning policy. Hollinrake highlighted stark disparities in the proposed housing distribution, pointing to dramatic increases in building targets for rural areas, while London faces reduced quotas. A key concern raised by Hollinrake centres on the erosion of local democratic oversight in planning decisions. The criticism comes as Labour pledges to put builders, not blockers, first, in what Starmer describes as an overhaul of a broken planning system. Labour's planned overhaul of the planning system includes prioritising previously developed brownfield sites for new construction. The Local Government Association has cautioned that planning reforms must be accompanied by broader measures. What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you've not yet already, make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more British content. Thank you. Take care. Goodbye.